The gunshot echoed through the narrow hallway as Nia pressed herself against the cold apartment door, heart hammering against her ribs. She didn't know the man who'd just killed 3 intruders in the corridor, didn't know why his dark eyes found hers through the chaos with something that looked like recognition, like destiny. Blood stained his expensive suit, but he lowered his weapon slowly, impossibly gentle. "You're safe now," he said in accented English, voice rough as gravel and smooth as silk. Something ancient and irrevocable shifted in his chest when she whispered, "Who are you?" Welcome to Afro-Korean Stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. My dream is to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of this year. I believe. Together we can achieve such. Thank you. Nia had moved into the modest Seoul apartment 3 days ago with nothing but 2 suitcases and a desperate need to disappear. Her ex, Marcus, had made her life in Atlanta unbearable, showing up at her job, her mother's house, sending messages that escalated from pleading to threatening. South Korea felt far enough, foreign enough, safe enough. She'd taken a remote position with an international marketing firm, found this building in Gangnam through an expat Facebook group, and convinced herself that 8,000 miles would finally give her peace. The apartment was small but clean, with large windows that overlooked the bustling street below. She'd spent her first 2 nights unpacking, arranging furniture, and trying not to jump at every unfamiliar sound. The building was upscale, secure, with a doorman and key card access. She'd chosen the 5th floor specifically, high enough to feel safe, low enough to escape if needed. Old habits from a relationship that had taught her to always plan an exit. She hadn't met any neighbors yet. The unit to her right stood empty, undergoing renovation. But the apartment to her left, the penthouse that took up half the floor, remained a mystery. She'd heard movement occasionally, low voices in Korean, the sound of heavy footsteps. Whoever lived there kept irregular hours and maintained absolute privacy. The next morning, Nia ventured out to explore the neighborhood. Seoul in October was beautiful, crisp air, leaves turning gold and crimson, the city humming with energy that felt nothing like the South she'd left behind. She found a coffee shop 2 blocks away, practiced her basic Korean with a patient barista, and allowed herself to feel something close to hope. Maybe she really could start over. Maybe Marcus would give up, move on, forget about her. She was walking back to her building, arms full of groceries, when she noticed the black SUVs parked along the curb. 4 of them, windows tinted dark, engines running. Men in suits stood nearby, speaking into earpieces. The scene looked like something from a movie, too coordinated, too purposeful. Nia's stomach tightened. She'd learned to recognize danger, to trust her instincts. She hurried past them toward the building entrance, keeping her head down. The doorman greeted her with a respectful bow, but his expression seemed tense. As she waited for the elevator, she heard rapid Korean behind her, voices sharp with urgency. She didn't understand the words, but she recognized the tone. Something was wrong. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside, pressing the button for the 5th floor. Just before the doors closed, a hand shot through the gap. Nia's breath caught as a man entered, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an immaculate black suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. His face was striking, all sharp angles and smooth skin, with dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He pressed the button for the 5th floor, the same floor. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. His gaze traveled over her face, down to her curves, then back up with something that looked like surprised interest. Nia felt heat crawl up her neck. She'd been looked at before, but never quite like this, as if he was memorizing her, cataloging her, claiming her with his eyes alone. "New resident?" he asked in perfect English, voice deep and measured. "Yes," Nia managed. "I moved in a few days ago." He nodded slowly. "Welcome to the building." The elevator dinged. 5th floor. He gestured for her to exit first, following behind her. Nia's apartment was to the right. She watched from the corner of her eye as he turned left, toward the penthouse. Of course. The mysterious neighbor was apparently some kind of wealthy businessman with a security detail that could intimidate a small army. She unlocked her door quickly, slipped inside, and released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Through the wall, she heard his door close. Then silence. That evening, Nia tried to focus on setting up her home office, but her mind kept drifting to the man in the elevator. There had been something about him, an intensity, a barely restrained power that both frightened and fascinated her. She told herself it didn't matter. She'd come here to hide, to heal, not to get tangled up with mysterious neighbors who traveled with security teams. Later that night, she was jolted awake by sounds from the hallway. Voices, urgent and harsh. Heavy footsteps. She sat up in bed, heart racing, and grabbed her phone. The clock read 2:47 a.m. She crept to her door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but she could hear something, a struggle, maybe, or an argument. It was coming from the direction of the penthouse. Then, silence. Nia waited, barely breathing. Minutes passed. Nothing. She finally convinced herself it was nothing, perhaps just the sounds of the city she wasn't yet accustomed to, and returned to bed. But sleep came slowly, and when it did, it was filled with uneasy dreams. The following morning, she discovered a gift outside her door, a beautiful orchid in a ceramic pot, with a note written in elegant script, "Welcome to your new home. Your neighbor." No name, no signature beyond that. Nia brought the orchid inside, studying the note. The gesture was thoughtful, unexpectedly kind. It made her curious about the man behind the intimidating exterior. A few days later, Nia established a routine. Morning coffee at the cafe, work from home until evening, then short walks to explore the neighborhood. Soul was growing on her, the energy, the efficiency, the way ancient temples sat comfortably beside glass skyscrapers. She was learning basic Korean phrases, making small connections with shopkeepers, beginning to feel less like a refugee and more like a resident. She ran into her neighbor again in the building's lobby. He was speaking with the doorman, his posture relaxed but authoritative. When he saw her, something shifted in his expression, a slight softening around his eyes, a hint of a smile. "How are you settling in?" he asked, switching effortlessly to English. "Good, thank you. And thank you for the orchid. It was very kind. I'm glad you liked it." He paused, as if weighing his next words. "If you need anything, recommendations, assistance with the language, anything at all, my staff can help." "That's generous. I'm Nia, by the way. Kong Minho." His name rolled off his tongue like a promise. He extended his hand, and when she placed hers in his, the contact sent electricity up her arm. His grip was firm, warm, and he held on just a moment longer than necessary. "It's a pleasure to meet you properly." "You too." Nia retrieved her hand, suddenly flustered. Up close, he was even more striking, tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, with a presence that seemed to fill the entire lobby. There was something dangerous about him, something that whispered warnings she couldn't quite articulate. But there was also something protective in the way he positioned himself slightly between her and the door, as if shielding her from the world outside. It reminded her uncomfortably of Marcus at the beginning, before protection became possession, before love became control. She made an excuse and left quickly, feeling his gaze follow her all the way to the elevator. That evening, Nia video called her best friend back in Atlanta. Blessing's face filled the screen, immediately breaking into a wide smile. "Girl, you look good." "Soul is agreeing with you." Nia laughed. "It's only been a week, but yeah, I think I made the right choice. It feels safe here." "Any word from Marcus?" "Nothing. I think he finally got the message." Nia hoped that was true, though a part of her remained skeptical. Marcus didn't give up easily. "Good. You deserve peace." Blessing leaned closer to the camera. "So, met any hot Korean men yet?" Nia thought of Minho, his dark eyes, his powerful presence, the way her body had responded to his simple touch. "There's my neighbor. He's intense." "Intense how?" "I don't know. Rich, obviously. Travels with security. Very polite but kind of intimidating. Sounds mysterious. I like it. I'm not here for romance, bless. I'm here to get my life back. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the view while you're at it." They talked for another hour, and by the time Nia hung up, she felt lighter. Maybe Blessing was right. Maybe it was okay to acknowledge that her neighbor was attractive, that his attention made her feel things she'd thought Marcus had killed in her. As long as she kept her distance, what was the harm? The next day, Minho appeared at her door with a problem. "I apologize for the intrusion," he said, looking genuinely regretful. "But I'm having an issue with my water supply, and the building manager suggested it might be connected to your unit. Would you mind if my maintenance person took a look?" "Of course, come in." Nia stepped aside, suddenly aware that her apartment was a mess, dishes in the sink, work papers scattered across the dining table, laundry basket visible in the bedroom doorway. Minho seemed not to notice. He gestured, and a man in work clothes entered, heading straight for the kitchen. Minho remained in the living room, his presence making the space feel smaller. "You've made it comfortable," he observed, taking in her furniture, the photos she'd hung, the plants on the windowsill. "I'm trying. It's strange, starting over in a foreign country. What brought you to Seoul?" Nia hesitated. She didn't want to share her story, didn't want to expose her vulnerability to this man who already seemed to see too much. "Work opportunity. Change of scenery." Minho studied her with those penetrating eyes, and she had the uncomfortable feeling that he knew she was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. But he simply nodded. "Seoul is a good city for new beginnings." The maintenance worker called out something in Korean. Minho responded, then turned back to Nia. "It appears the issue is in my unit after all. Thank you for your patience." "No problem." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Nia, if you ever need anything, and I mean anything, please don't hesitate to ask. We're neighbors. We should look out for each other." There was something in his tone, an underlying intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Thank you. That's kind." After he left, Nia stood in her living room for a long moment, trying to understand the strange flutter in her chest. Minho was just being neighborly, she told herself. That was all. The fact that her body reacted to him, that his voice made her skin warm, that she kept replaying their conversations, none of that meant anything. She was still healing. Still learning to trust herself again. The last thing she needed was to develop feelings for a man she barely knew, especially one who carried himself like he owned the world. By the end of the week, Nia had fallen into a comfortable rhythm. Work kept her busy during the day, and she spent evenings exploring nearby neighborhoods, finding favorite restaurants, building a new life piece by piece. She'd been in Seoul 2 weeks now, and Marcus felt like a distant nightmare rather than an immediate threat. She was returning from a late dinner when she noticed the black SUVs again, parked in the same positions as before. This time, there were more of them, 6 total, and more men in suits. The atmosphere felt tense, charged. Nia's instinct screamed at her to go around, to avoid the building entirely, but she lived here. She had every right to enter her own home. She walked past the vehicles quickly, eyes forward. One of the men stepped into her path. "Identification," he said in Korean. Nia fumbled for her building key card, showing it to him. He examined it, then her face, then waved her through. She tried not to run to the entrance. The doorman looked stressed. "Miss Nia," he said quietly in broken English. "Maybe you stay away tonight. Not safe." "What's happening?" He shook his head, clearly not wanting to say more. "Please. Go to friend's house. Come back tomorrow." But Nia didn't have friends in Seoul, didn't have anywhere else to go. And she was tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of letting men dictate her movements. "I'll be fine in my apartment," she said firmly. "Thank you for your concern." She took the elevator to the 5th floor, her nerves buzzing with adrenaline. The hallway was empty, quiet. She unlocked her door and slipped inside, engaging both locks and the chain. Whatever was happening with her neighbor's business, it was none of her concern. She'd stay inside, stay safe, and it would all blow over. Nia changed into comfortable clothes and was settling down with a book when she heard it, the unmistakable sound of gunfire. Not in the distance, but close. In the building. Possibly on her floor. She dropped the book, her entire body going cold with terror. More shots. Shouting in Korean. The sound of something heavy hitting the floor. She grabbed her phone, hands shaking so badly she could barely unlock it. Should she call the police? Hide? Run? The sounds of violence were getting closer, right outside her door now. She heard Minho's voice, sharp with authority, giving commands in Korean. More gunshots. Then a body slammed against her door so hard the frame shook. Nia backed away, heart in her throat, phone clutched uselessly in her hand. The sounds continued, fighting, shooting, the organized chaos of violence. She counted at least 3 different men shouting, maybe more. This wasn't a simple security issue. This was a war zone. Then, silence. Heavy, oppressive silence. Nia stood frozen in her living room, barely breathing. Seconds stretched into minutes. She was about to move, to check the peephole, when someone knocked on her door, firm, controlled. Nia. Minho's voice. It's me. Open the door. She approached slowly, looked through the peephole. Minho stood in her hallway, suit jacket gone, white shirt stained with blood. His expression was tense but calm. Behind him, she could see bodies on the floor, 3 men, not moving. Nia, please. We need to make sure you're safe. Safe. The word was laughable. She was anything but safe. But something in his voice, in his eyes when she could see them through the peephole, made her unlock the door. She kept the chain on, opening it just a crack. Are you hurt? His eyes scanned what he could see of her, checking for injuries. No. What's happening? Who were those men? People who have no business in this building. They've been dealt with. His voice was matter of fact, as if he were discussing a minor plumbing issue rather than multiple dead bodies. I need to check your apartment. Make sure none of them got inside. Nia's hands trembled as she removed the chain, letting him in. Minho moved through her space with efficient precision, checking windows, closets, even under the bed. He was methodical, professional. When he was satisfied, he returned to the living room where she stood, arms wrapped around herself. You're safe, he said again, and this time there was something gentle in his voice, almost tender. I apologize that you witnessed this. Who are you? Nia asked, the question she'd been avoiding finally surfacing. Really? Minho regarded her for a long moment. In his eyes, she saw a decision being made, a line being crossed. I handle security and logistics for certain business interests in Seoul. Sometimes, people take issue with the way I do business. Tonight was one of those times. It was a careful answer, revealing nothing while confirming everything. Security and logistics. Business interests. This man wasn't just wealthy, he was powerful, connected to something dark and dangerous. Everything about him suddenly made sense. The security detail, the late-night movements, the aura of controlled violence. You're involved in organized crime, Nia said flatly. I prefer to think of it as alternative business structures. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. But if it makes you uncomfortable, I can arrange for you to be moved to another building. I'll cover all costs. I just moved here to get away from. She stopped, not wanting to reveal too much. From what? His voice sharpened with interest. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. He stepped closer, and Nia felt her back press against the wall. He wasn't threatening, wasn't trying to intimidate her, but his presence was overwhelming. If someone is causing you trouble, I can make it stop. Permanently. The offer should have terrified her. Instead, some broken part of her felt absurdly comforted. After months of feeling powerless against Marcus's stalking, the idea that someone could simply make him stop was intoxicating. I can handle it, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Minho reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, and gently tucked a curl behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, possessive, and it sent heat flooding through her body. You shouldn't have to handle anything alone. Not anymore. Their eyes locked. Nia felt something shift in her chest, something she thought Marcus had destroyed. Want. Need. The desire to lean into this man's strength, to let him carry her burdens, to trust again. But trust had betrayed her before. She pulled back, putting distance between them. Thank you for checking on me. But I'll be fine. Minho's jaw tightened slightly, the only sign of his displeasure. As you wish. But Nia, he waited until she met his eyes again. If anything happens, anything at all, you come to me first. Understood? She nodded, not trusting her voice. He left, and Nia locked the door behind him with shaking hands. Through the wall, she heard low voices, the sounds of cleanup. She didn't want to think about what was being done with the bodies, how Minho could orchestrate something like this without police involvement, what kind of power structure he must command. She also couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd touched her, the promise in his voice, the absolute certainty that he would protect her if she asked. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by her window, watching the city lights, trying to process everything that had happened. By dawn, she'd made a decision, she would keep her distance from Kang Minho. Whatever he was offering, protection, attention, the magnetic pull she felt whenever he was near, it was too dangerous. She'd escaped one controlling man. She wouldn't fall into the arms of another, no matter how different he seemed. The next morning, Nia avoided the hallway, taking the stairs instead of the elevator. She spent the day working from a cafe, returning to her apartment only after dark. The hallway had been cleaned, all evidence of violence erased. If not for the memory burned into her brain, she might have thought she'd imagined it all. A few days later, she ran into Minho in the lobby. He was with two of his men, discussing something in rapid Korean. When he saw her, he immediately excused himself and approached. You've been avoiding me. I've been busy with work. Nia. Her name on his lips felt like a caress. I understand if what you saw frightened you. But I meant what I said. You're safe in this building. You're safe with me. I didn't ask for your protection. No, he agreed. But you have it anyway. She should have been angry, should have told him she didn't need or want his interference. Instead, she felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Why? You don't even know me. Minho's eyes darkened with an emotion she couldn't name. I'd like to change that. Have dinner with me. That's not a good idea. Why not? Because you're dangerous. Because I'm broken. Because I can't trust my judgment when it comes to men. Because when you look at me like that, I forget every lesson I learned the hard way. I'm not looking for anything right now. Neither am I, he lied smoothly. Just dinner. Two neighbors getting to know each other. Nothing more. Nia knew she should say no. Every instinct screamed at her to maintain distance, to protect herself. But another part of her, the part that was tired of being afraid, that wanted to feel something besides fear and shame, made her say, one dinner. As neighbors. The smile that crossed Minho's face was victorious, possessive, and completely devastating. Tomorrow night. I'll pick you up at 7. The following evening, Nia changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a deep burgundy dress that hugged her curves and fell just above her knees. She told herself it didn't matter what she wore, that this was just a neighborly dinner, nothing more. But her hands shook as she applied lipstick, and her reflection revealed the truth she was trying to hide. She wanted Minho to look at her the way he had that first night, like she was something precious he'd been searching for his entire life. The knock came at exactly 7. Nia opened the door to find Minho in a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary, his dark hair styled back, his expression unreadable until his eyes traveled over her body. Then heat flared in those depths, raw and unmistakable. You're beautiful, he said simply, as if stating an indisputable fact. Thank you. You look nice too. Nice. He smiled slightly, offering his arm. I'll accept that for now. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind of place that didn't advertise and didn't need to. Minho was greeted by name, ushered to a private room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. Throughout dinner, he was attentive, asking about her life, her interests, her dreams. Nia found herself relaxing, sharing more than she'd intended about her work, her childhood in Atlanta, her love of art and music. "And what brought you to Seoul, really?" Minho asked over dessert. "The truth this time." Nia set down her fork. "I was in a relationship that became unhealthy. He wouldn't let go even after I ended things. I needed distance." Minho's expression darkened. "He hurt you?" "Not physically. But emotionally, psychologically, yes. He made me feel like I couldn't trust myself, like I was always wrong, always overreacting. And then after I left, he wouldn't stop. Showing up everywhere, sending messages, making me feel like I'd never be free of him." "His name?" Minho's voice was lethal, quiet. "It doesn't matter. He's 8,000 miles away. He can't reach me here." "His name, Nia." She met his eyes and saw something that should have frightened her: cold rage, barely controlled violence, the absolute certainty that he would hurt anyone who had hurt her. "Marcus. Marcus Johnson." "But please, I don't want." "I won't do anything you don't want me to do," Minho interrupted gently. "But I need you to understand something. You are under my protection now, whether you asked for it or not. If this Marcus ever tries to contact you again, you tell me immediately. Understood?" Nia should have argued, should have insisted she could handle her own problems. Instead, she felt tears prick her eyes. When was the last time someone had offered to simply stand between her and danger? When had anyone made her feel this safe, this valued? "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" Minho reached across the table, taking her hand in his. His thumb traced circles on her palm, the touch sending electricity up her arm. "From the moment I saw you in that elevator, something changed. I built my life on control, on calculating every move, every risk. But with you, I don't want control. I want chaos. I want to know everything about you. I want to wake up to your face and fall asleep to your voice. I want to destroy anyone who's ever made you feel small or afraid." He paused, his grip tightening slightly. "I want you, Nia. All of you." Her breath caught. "You don't even know me. Then let me learn. Give me that chance." Every rational part of Nia's brain screamed warnings. This was too fast, too intense, too much like the beginning with Marcus before everything went wrong. But her heart, her traitorous heart, wanted to believe that Minho was different. That his intensity came from devotion rather than possession. That his darkness could keep her safe instead of swallowing her whole. "I'm not ready for a relationship," she said carefully. "I need time to heal, to figure out who I am outside of that trauma. Then I'll wait." Simple, absolute. "But I won't hide how I feel. And I won't let anyone hurt you again." The rest of dinner passed in a haze of conversation and stolen glances. Minho told her about growing up in Seoul, about taking over his father's business interests, about the weight of responsibility and the loneliness of power. He was surprisingly open, vulnerable in a way that felt like a gift. By the time they returned to the building, Nia felt drunk on his attention, on the possibility of something she'd thought was lost to her forever. At her door, Minho cupped her face with both hands, his touch gentle despite the calluses she could feel on his palms. "Thank you for tonight. For trusting me with your story. Thank you for listening." He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When his lips brushed her forehead, the gesture was so tender, so careful, that Nia felt something crack open inside her chest. Then he was gone, disappearing into his penthouse, leaving her trembling against her door. The following morning, Nia woke to find a gift outside her door, a first edition of her favorite novel, which she'd mentioned casually during dinner. The note read, "For all the time you need. I'll be here. MH." Over the next 2 weeks, Minho courted her with a patience that both comforted and devastated her. He never pushed for more than she was ready to give, but his presence became a constant in her life. Coffee appeared at her door each morning, always exactly how she liked it. When she mentioned wanting to explore more of Seoul, he arranged for his driver to take her anywhere she wanted to go. When she worked late, dinner would be delivered, never elaborate, just her favorite comfort foods, as if he was learning her needs before she could voice them. They fell into a routine of evening conversations in the hallway between their apartments, sometimes talking for hours about everything and nothing. Minho made her laugh with dry observations about his business associates. Nia shared stories about her work, her dreams of someday opening an art gallery. He listened like every word was precious, like she was the most fascinating person he'd ever met. But he never tried to kiss her, never pushed for intimacy beyond hand-holding and the occasional embrace. His restraint was maddening and perfect, allowing Nia to slowly lower her walls, to trust again. One evening, 3 weeks after their first dinner, Nia was working at a cafe when a man approached her table. He was Korean, attractive, with a friendly smile. "Excuse me, I hope this isn't too forward, but I noticed you're working in English. Are you visiting Seoul?" "I live here now," Nia said politely. "Just moved a few weeks ago." "Welcome. I'm Jae-sung. I work in international marketing nearby. If you ever want recommendations for places to visit, or just need someone to practice Korean with, I'd be happy to help." He placed his business card on her table. "Maybe we could grab coffee sometime?" It was innocent, friendly, the kind of offer Nia would have appreciated under normal circumstances. But before she could respond, a shadow fell across the table. Minho stood there, his expression pleasant but his eyes deadly. "Nia," he said warmly, as if they'd planned to meet. "I'm sorry I'm late." Jae-sung took one look at Minho's face and paled. "I apologize for intruding. I didn't realize, excuse me." He practically fled. Nia watched him go, then turned to Minho with raised eyebrows. "That was subtle. He was attempting to ask you out." Minho's voice was tight, controlled fury beneath a calm surface. "He was being friendly. He was looking at you like," Minho stopped, jaw clenched. "I don't like other men looking at you like that." "Like what?" "Like they have any right to your attention. Like they could ever deserve you." He sat down across from her, possessiveness radiating from every line of his body. "I know I have no claim on you. I know you need time." But Nia, seeing him approach you, seeing you smile at him, it took everything in me not to make a scene. Nia's heart raced. She should have been angry at his jealousy, at his presumption. Instead, she felt heat pool in her stomach, desire mixing with a sense of being wanted, being claimed. "You can't chase away every man who talks to me. Watch me." No humor in his voice, just absolute certainty. "Minho. I'm trying to be patient. I'm trying to give you space to heal. But my patience has limits, especially when it comes to other men pursuing what's mine. I'm not yours." His eyes locked on hers, dark and intense. "Aren't you? Look me in the eye and tell me you don't feel this thing between us. Tell me you don't think about me the way I think about you, constantly, obsessively, to the point of distraction. Tell me you don't want me the way I want you, and I'll back off. I'll let you go." Nia opened her mouth to say exactly that, to create distance, to protect herself. But the words wouldn't come. Because he was right. She did think about him constantly. She did want him in ways that terrified and thrilled her. And sitting here, seeing the barely restrained hunger in his eyes, feeling the weight of his attention, she realized she was tired of fighting it. "I can't," she whispered. "Can't what?" "Can't tell you I don't want you. Because I do. God help me, I do." Minho stood, rounding the table in 2 strides. He pulled her to her feet, gathering her against him, one hand cupping the back of her head while the other splayed across her lower back. "Say it again." "I want you." The admission felt like freedom and danger combined. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like the gentle forehead kiss from weeks ago. This was possession, claiming, barely controlled hunger that set her entire body on fire. His mouth moved against hers with devastating skill, taking and giving in equal measure, until Nia forgot where they were, forgot every reason she'd told herself to stay away from him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minho pressed his forehead to hers. "Come home with me. Please. I need you somewhere safe, somewhere I can." He stopped, shuddering slightly. "I need to know you're close." Nia nodded, beyond words. They gathered her things and returned to the building in his car, the driver maintaining professional silence while the air between them crackled with tension. In the elevator, Minho kept one hand on her lower back, possessive and grounding. By the time they reached the 5th floor, Nia's heart was hammering so hard she could barely breathe. Minho unlocked his penthouse, and Nia stepped into a space that was quintessentially him, modern, masculine, with floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture that somehow felt warm rather than cold. He closed the door behind them, engaging multiple locks, then turned to face her. "If you want to leave, tell me now. Because once I have you, Nia, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to let you go." She should have run. Should have protected herself from the intensity in his voice, the promise of obsession in his eyes. Instead, she stepped forward, closing the distance between them, and reached up to touch his face. "Then don't let me go." What happened next was a blur of sensations, his mouth on hers, his hands exploring her curves with reverent desperation, her back against the wall and then the soft surface of his bed. They came together with the force of weeks of restrained desire, of longing finally given permission to ignite. Minho touched her like she was sacred, like every inch of her body deserved worship, until Nia forgot every moment of shame Marcus had caused her and remembered what it felt like to be cherished. Later, wrapped in his arms as dawn light filtered through the windows, Nia felt fear creep back in. This had been perfect, overwhelming, everything she'd thought she'd never have again. Which meant it was too good to be true. Minho would wake up, realize she wasn't worth the trouble, and pull away like Marcus had, slowly at first, then all at once, until love became criticism and care became control. She couldn't survive that again. Not from him. Carefully, Nia extracted herself from his embrace. Minho stirred but didn't wake, exhausted from the hours they'd spent tangled together. She dressed quickly, gathering her things, and slipped out of the penthouse. Back in her own apartment, she locked the door and leaned against it, tears streaming down her face. She'd been foolish to think she could have this. Foolish to trust again, to let someone in. Better to end it now, before Minho could hurt her the way Marcus had. Better to be alone than broken again. An hour later, pounding on her door jolted her from her thoughts. "Nia." Minho's voice, urgent and rough. "Open the door. Now." She wiped her tears, straightened her spine. "Go away." "Not happening. Open this door, or I'm breaking it down. You can't just." The sound of his fist hitting the door reverberated through her apartment. "I will tear this entire building apart to get to you. Don't test me." Nia believed him. She unlocked the door, opening it to find Minho still shirtless, hair disheveled, eyes wild with something that looked like panic. "Why did you leave?" he demanded, pushing into her apartment. "Why would you?" He stopped, taking in her tear-stained face. His expression shifted from anger to devastation. "You're running from me." "I'm protecting myself." "From what?" "From me?" "Nia, what we shared last night was a mistake," she said, hating herself for the words. "This is too fast, too intense. You barely know me. In a few weeks, you'll realize I'm not what you thought I was, and I'll what?" Minho closed the distance between them, gripping her arms gently. "Pull away? Reject you? Make you feel like you're not enough?" Understanding flooded his features. "He really did a number on you, didn't he? Made you think that's what love looks like, something temporary, conditional, that you have to earn. Isn't it?" "No." The word was absolute, fierce. "What I feel for you isn't going away. It's not dependent on you being perfect or easy or anything other than who you are. I told you, from the moment I saw you, something changed in me. You don't have to believe me yet, but I will spend every day proving it to you. I will show you what it looks like when a man truly commits, truly protects, truly loves. You can't love me. Not yet. It's too soon." Minho's smile was soft, sad. "It's not love yet, you're right. It's something more dangerous, it's the promise of love. It's the certainty that I could fall completely, irrevocably, and there would be no coming back from you. But I'm not afraid of that. I embrace it. The question is whether you're brave enough to embrace it too. Nia wanted to believe him. Wanted to think that this time would be different, that Minho's intensity came from devotion rather than the need to control. But fear was a powerful thing, trauma even more so. I need time, she whispered. Space to think. Pain flashed across Minho's face, but he nodded. Then I'll give you that. But Nia, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving you. And when you're ready, when you've had enough space and time, I'll still be here. Right next door. Waiting for you. He left, and Nia collapsed on her couch, sobbing. She thought she was protecting herself, but all she felt was empty, hollow, like she'd just thrown away the best thing that had ever happened to her. The next few days were torture. Nia buried herself in work, avoiding the hallway, ignoring the coffee that still appeared at her door each morning. Minho respected her request for space, but she could feel his presence through the wall, could hear him moving around his penthouse at odd hours, as if he couldn't sleep either. On the fourth day, Blessing video called. One look at Nia's face, and she knew something was wrong. What happened? Did Marcus find you? No. Nothing like that. Nia explained everything, Minho, their connection, the night they'd shared, her panic and retreat. Blessing listened without interruption, then sighed. Girl, you're self-sabotaging. I'm being smart. Protecting myself. You're letting Marcus win. You're letting him steal your future because you're too afraid to trust that this man might be different. Blessing leaned closer to the camera. Nia, I know you're scared. You have every right to be. But from everything you've told me, Minho hasn't done anything Marcus would have done. He's been patient. He's respected your boundaries. He's worshipped you instead of trying to change you. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to let the past define your future. The words hit like a physical blow. Blessing was right. Nia had been so focused on not repeating her mistakes that she couldn't see she was making a different one, pushing away someone who genuinely cared for her. What if I'm wrong? Nia asked quietly. What if I let him in, and he hurts me? Then you survive, the way you survived Marcus. But Nia, what if you're right? What if he's exactly what he seems, a man who will move heaven and earth to keep you safe and loved? Are you really willing to lose that because you're afraid? After the call ended, Nia sat in silence for a long time. She thought about Minho's patience, his restraint, the way he looked at her like she hung the moon. She thought about his jealousy that came from wanting her close rather than controlling her movements. She thought about how he'd offered her space when she asked, even though it clearly hurt him. And she realized Blessing was right. She was letting Marcus win. Nia stood, walked to her door, and opened it. She crossed the hallway to Minho's penthouse and knocked. For a moment, nothing. Then the door opened, and Minho stood there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I'm sorry, Nia said before he could speak. I'm sorry I ran. I'm sorry I let fear make my decisions. I'm sorry I... Minho pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Don't apologize. Never apologize for protecting yourself. But I was wrong. You're not Marcus. You've never been Marcus. And she pulled back to look at him. I want to try this. Really try. Not holding back, not waiting for the other shoe to drop. I want to see where this goes. The smile that spread across Minho's face was pure joy. He pulled her inside, kicking the door closed, and kissed her with all the desperation of the past few days. I will prove to you every day that I'm worth the risk. I promise you that, Nia. You will never regret choosing me. They spent the rest of the day and night in his penthouse, talking, touching, making up for lost time. Minho told her things he'd never shared with anyone, his fears, his hopes, the loneliness of his position. Nia found herself opening up in return, sharing dreams she thought Marcus had killed. By morning, everything felt different. Lighter. Like a future she thought was impossible might actually be within reach. The next 2 months passed in a blur of happiness. Nia moved freely between her apartment and Minho's penthouse, essentially living in both. He took her to hidden parts of Seoul, introduced her to his trusted inner circle, showed her the man behind the dangerous reputation. His work sometimes pulled him away, late nights, tense meetings, situations he couldn't explain in detail, but he always came back to her, always made her feel like she was his priority. Nia had never been happier. She was thriving in her job, making friends in Seoul's expat community, building a life that felt authentic and full. And through it all, Minho was her constant, protective without being controlling, attentive without being smothering, devoted in a way that felt healthy and real. She should have known it couldn't last. It started small, messages from an unknown number. At first, they were vague, "I know where you are. Did you really think you could hide? Seoul looks good on you." Nia tried to convince herself they were spam, wrong numbers, anything except what her gut told her they were. Then photos started arriving. Her at the cafe where she worked. Entering the building. Walking with Minho through Gangnam. Someone was watching her. Someone was here. Marcus had found her. Nia showed the messages to Minho that evening, hands shaking. His expression went from concern to lethal in seconds. "How long has this been happening?" "A week. I kept thinking it would stop, that I was being paranoid. You should have told me immediately." His voice was tight, controlled rage beneath the surface. "This Marcus, he's here. In Seoul. You don't know that. These photos were taken in the past few days. He's here, and he's watching you." Minho pulled her close, his arms forming a protective cage around her. "He's not getting near you. I promise you that." The next day, Minho's security detail doubled. Men in suits appeared everywhere Nia went, subtle but present. Minho insisted she stay in his penthouse rather than her own apartment, and Nia didn't argue. The sense of being watched, of Marcus closing in, made her skin crawl. 3 days later, Minho came home earlier than expected, his expression grim. "We found him. Marcus Johnson, staying at a hotel in Itaewon. My men are watching him." What do we do?" "I'm going to have a conversation with him. Make it clear that he needs to leave Seoul and never contact you again." "Minho, you can't just." "I can, and I will." He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Nia, you need to trust me. This is what I do. I handle threats, I protect what's mine, and I eliminate problems. Marcus is a problem that ends today." That evening, while Minho was gone, Nia received a phone call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. "Nia, baby, don't hang up." Marcus's voice, sickeningly familiar. "I know you're there with him, with that Korean gangster you think is going to protect you. But he can't. Not from me. I love you too much to let you go. You don't love me. You never did. I flew 8,000 miles for you. I've spent months tracking you down.